So here I sit in a small little shed somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, in a backwater called Spanaway, Washington. And I've been thinking a lot lately, and I know I should probably see like a therapist or a life coach, or I guess if I had a lot of money and a lot of time I could see a psychiatrist, or somebody that was a knowledgeable professional person, because I'm bothered by some things. I'm bothered by some things that aren't public or aren't social. It's a very socially awkward type of idea to have, or conversation to have with someone. That and being the idea of reincarnation. I know, okay, forget about that. You're going to remember everything that happens. That's completely out of the picture. There is no, you don't carry forward your memories from a past life. I totally accept that. The one thing that is a subject. The subject being this I, this me, this wanderer that navigates through its existence in this life, the person that I call myself, the one that falls asleep at night and thinks that it's a deer or some kind of elk or an animal that's roaming a forest and it runs across a human, or that dreams it's standing in a line somewhere on a border somewhere in some third world country and speaks another language, or this person that remembers itself as a child, or having a dream that's experiencing itself as someone else entirely, or an animal, or some. And it's kind of started a lot when I started really thinking a lot about, well, maybe it has to do with being vegan, because I'm on a plant-based diet, and I'm like, and having pets too throughout my life, probably also. And that animals are like, if there's any kind of, a little tiny bit of any consciousness at all in an animal other than a human animal, then it gives one it's really cause for thought in that regard, because that means that you can approach that animal and say, whoa, that could have been me. I mean, it could be that I'm just human because it's all randomness in the universe caused this form to come about, and I've grown out of the form of the cells, of all the activity of my cells. That it could have just been another kind of mammal that I'm stuck in. I'm living out inside of, subjectively through that being that is a non-human being but is sentient. And that's cause for concern, because I'm like worried about the birds around my house. You know, I'm like feeding squirrels, and I'm like concerned about animals on the side of the road, and I'm like thinking a lot about, you know, being around a lot of people that are eating meat all the time, and or they don't share the same perspective as I do on what life is. The common mind is, well, it's there, and I'm going to take advantage of it because I'm stronger, I have a superior position over that, so I can take advantage of that and use that for my own comfort and pleasure. And that has bothered me. It's like, and it doesn't, and not only that, it bothers me that could be me. Okay, I could maybe die and wake up as an animal, and the universe doesn't plan this. There's no I'm gonna try to be this enlightened person, and that's gonna cause me to be re-emerge as a better being. It doesn't. I don't think it works that way. I don't think there is. It's just all random. It's just chance that I'm human. I could have been an elephant or a tiger or a porpoise or any other kind of animal. If it's all random and there's no one that's in charge of everything, right? All this universe and all these the forms and all the processes that have gone on for the eons, then it's really a cause for consider. Maybe I'm burdening you people with these ideas, and they are kind of a burden to bear. They're not something that makes you feel good, because you're all of a sudden you realize, well, it's not. I didn't earn my position as a human. I didn't somehow, somewhere, at some other time, make some progress forward on my own through my own efforts. It was caused not by my own will or my own volition. Everything formed by processes beyond, totally outside of my control. And then you think very deeply about, we're material objects, there's nothing magical, mystical forms we're not some kind of ethereal, magical form floating inside of our heads. We are just we're nerve impulses, very complex forms of nerve impulses, and they're material. They're based on material laws. There's no other magic. There's no something that's, we understand, science has understood that, we are material beings. And until someone comes up with some heavy, hard proof, or really solid evidence to the contrary, that, or, when I was a child, or when I was a lot younger, I had these dreams where I floated out of my body. I think it was a fantasy I had. I read a lot of books about journeys out of body and leaving your body. Sylvian Muldoon and Robert Monroe, Journeys Out of Body, and other books about psychic phenomenon, psychic voyages, and that sort of thing. And I had this inkling in my mind, because I was brought up a religious person, that was really going to happen, or that has some validity behind it. But when you start, understanding neurology and the biology of the human physiology and all that, you understand that the brain is just a form of tissue, of material processes that are very well associated with the cells. That it's a fantastic, it's thinking in fantasies is what it is. It's just a fantasy kind of thinking. So and that, and then the loss of religion, the loss of believing in a higher power. If you lose that and you take on a scientific viewpoint of the world, it's like it's forced me to rethink a lot of how I see my paradigm, how I see the world around me. It's forced me to think more like, that I'm not free, that I'm not a free agent, that I'm just a series of processes that it's been shaped by its environment and its programming, essentially. Which, and then I just can't, there's no one around me that I can really talk to about these things. So I use this medium as a way to communicate that. You try to get a grip on my thinking and try to live more harmonious with other people in the world, and that, and try not to let it get me. Even if everybody around me is eating meat, and there's stuffed heads of dead animals all around me, with, that people have hunted, for fun. They go out for fun and they hunt. I mean, they can go to the grocery store and get, oatmeal and bread and nuts, and they don't have to do that, but they do. It's like a sport, and I'm thinking about dreams that I'm having of being an animal and being hunted, being stalked, and then being frightened by a human. I'll see a human in my dream and I'm an animal. That was one dream I had that was really stuck with me, and it's and after a fishing trip, I would close my eyes and I'd see all these fish, because I was thinking about fish while I was looking in the water with the fishing pole. And then the worst part of the fishing was having a little animal on the end of a hook and dragging him into the boat, and I still deeply am saddened and regret that I did that. That was a fun thing to do at the time. Wow, this is great, I'm having a good time, I got a fish on. I wasn't even thinking about, there was this poor little animal that was on the end of this piece of nylon with a hook inside of it. It was struggling to survive, and I was only thinking about my I'm having a good time. Oh yeah, I'm catching a fish. Yeah, this is all so fun. Ha ha ha. And I drag this animal on a boat and then bat it over the head until it's dead, and look at it and then cook it and cut it up and all that. I wasn't thinking about that. So, and I'm like a Debbie Downer, with the people around me. All the people around me are hunters and fishermen and all that. They live like, and that's their heritage. That's part of their, my dad, my grandfather, my great grandfather, we were all hunters and we went out fishing. We caught our own food and cleaned and dressed our deer and all that, went out hunting, and that's something that they learned when they were a kid, and their uncles and all their family was doing it all the time, and they learned to do it, and they're like, meat eating, they identify culturally with the food they eat. It's all part of them. Their identity is in their food, barbecuing and like having meat and all that, and even raising food, raising chickens, and it's popular, so. And I'm like, here I am, like eating oatmeal every day. I'm vegan, tofu. And I'm really like picky about. I go to a meal with a bunch of people, and I gotta be really picky. And I put beans and I can't even eat mashed potatoes because it's got like ham in it. So it's like, after seeing all of the videos I've seen from Mercy for Animals and all of the vegan, all of the videos of other animals and what happens to animals in the world that we farm and we raise and breed and all that. And I'm like going, whoa, I could never eat an animal again. I'm sorry, because it's like stuck inside here, seeing a little thing that's powerless for a powerful thing going and controlling that and confining it, and a bigger brain overpowering a smaller brain, a little brain that's hurting, and that's scared. And I can't see that. I don't want to be part of that anymore. It's like I don't even know if I want to live in this world anymore. If everybody around me is like that, it's like I have a hard time with that. It just hurts me. It's like, anyhow, I guess that's the way it is. You just got to accept it. People are like that. You can't go run away and live in a vegan commune where everybody's vegan and you want that. You'd want to be like, go far away somewhere and live on an island and grow vegetables and eat coconuts with a bunch of other people that believe the same thing as you do, but there's no one else around you that believes the same thing as you do. You're like, and you start thinking, that I'm sentient. Well, all these other things are sentient too, and they're feeling. They're as much as feeling as I am. They just can't articulate what they're feeling in a language or they can't write down what's happening to them and give you the message. It's just they're feeling, and they're stuck inside of a little body, a little brain that's alive, that's feeling itself, being all these things happening to it, and it's being overpowered by some other being that's a bigger brain being that's just taking advantage of them. So, and you feel like, wow, once you wake up to that, gee, I was part of that. I'm like part of being hurting somebody. I'm like, my life is all these meals that I ate, that animal I ate, had to do all. I had to go through all this horror. It was a horrible thing. They had to live through that. They had to live in a cage or be stalked by someone, or be hunted by someone, or trapped, or confined. So maybe it's and this. So this is something I just sit down and I talk about, because if I can talk a little bit about it with my wife, but she's I think a lot of ways she's on the same page as I am, but I've kind of like forced it on her. I don't think maybe she would be vegan if I wasn't. I don't know. And it's just too much I've seen with my own eyes. I've seen my own eyes with animals, and I've had pets most of my life too. So I know I have this strong recognition in me that I know, oh, there's someone there. It's a cat or a dog or a bird or a turtle or a fish. I know now. It's like, wow, I've opened my eyes and I see, wow, that's someone else. They can't talk, they can't write math equations down, they can't do sophisticated use tools or anything, but there's someone there inside of them that's experienced being alive. So it's made me cause for being concerned. So maybe that's me, and it's just I have to deal with it. I made that choice And now I made that choice, I have to live with it. Even though I'm mostly alone in that most of the time here. And and I don't pass a harsh judgment because I know I was that way in my past. So I don't judge people. I have to deal with things inside of myself internally, but I don't judge people because I know that, there was probably many times in the history of humanity where human beings, they were starving to death. There's probably on many occasions throughout our lineage, throughout my own family line, or throughout many times it happened in the past that human beings, had to kill something and eat it, or else they would have been dead. So it's only my being here. So it's like, oh, I'm here because some distant family member was starving to death, and they had to learn how to use fire and cook the meat on the fire, and then they could take salted fish or whatever. They could fire with, or rub sticks together, or carry fire around, and that was eating. Unless it was salted fish or mussels or clams or something like that, or maybe insects. But before that, it was probably a long time in human history where we were jungles. That human animals lived in jungles that ate mostly fruit, nuts, seeds, and leaves, and roots, and things like that, berries, and tubers, and it was probably that way. There was times when the climate changed and it forced people to have to migrate, and then they went out on the savannah and they had to find where the birds of prey were and find the bones, and then break the bones open and get the marrow out, and learn how to use fire, and then they could go more north and survive where it was colder, and learn how to kill animals and dress the animals' skins for clothing, and then so it was humans living in a warm tropical jungle type areas that we grew out of that, but we adapted to meat eating with the invention of fire and the necessity. So maybe that's odd to think that way, but so in a way, modern times here, people are learning that we can get all these processed foods now. You can go to the store and you can buy, like, vegan foods and vegan processed foods and prepared vegan meals that it wasn't even available. I remember in the 70s or the 80s, you could just get there was only a few items maybe on the shelf that were vegan, that were prepared foods. Other than that, you had to cook a lot yourself and prepare your own food. But now it should be a lot easier. Now you go to the store and you can find, like, Amy's and the other Gardein foods, and some of the other ones. The meat, the meat made out of the soy and all that. It's pretty good, actually. Other than that, I'm not, one to prepare a lot of food and meals. I mostly eat, like, nuts and oatmeal and a lot of rice and beans and stuff. So, but maybe being on a plant-based diet has affected me more. Maybe I'm more prone to be more sensitive to animals too in that regard, because I see, because maybe it's like maybe it changes your physiology in some way to be more alert to animals around you and all that. So anyway, have a nice year. Appreciate you all coming by and listening to my mumblings, ramblings, rants, or whatever. Have a good day. Take care. You'll see me later.